Thank you for that great introduction. Ethan Lax, L-A-X, 3 letters, that's it. I'm sure a lot of you right-wing conservatives right now are thinking, Lax, nationality. Let me clear that up for you early here. Lax is Jewish. Let me hear it from the fellow members of the tribe out there, or do I have to try to get more gigs over on the east side? Jewish comedians have a wealth of material at our disposal. Anytime we run out of ideas, all we have to do is make a call home to mom. I'm sure many of you know the Jewish mother mantra. If you don't, I'm going to teach it to you tonight. It's quite simple. 2 short sentences. Fear everything, trust no one. Repeat after me. Fear everything, trust no one. Congratulations, you've all moved on to Meshuggah 201 next semester. Now, my mother, she walks a particularly fine line between Jewish mother and paranoid wackadoodle. Let me give you an example. About 20 years ago, it was time to decide her final resting place, and she could not stand the thought of being buried. Oh, the worms, they're going to mess up my makeup. Cremation. Oy, the heat. So my mother decided on an above-ground mausoleum, or as I like to call it, the human filing cabinet. My father unfortunately passed away earlier this year, and he was the first in the crypt, filed neatly between Lawler and Lazinski. In fact, it's a very classy facility. They actually have a Dewey Decimal System app you can download for your iPhone, help you find your way around the grounds. Yeah. Funeral went smoothly, everything's fine. Next morning, my mother calls me, she's frantic. Ethan! I just had a horrible thought. Well, I've been through my mother's horrible thoughts before. Okay, Mom, what do you got? What if, an hour after the funeral director came and stole the casket for resale? Okay. Well, Mom, you realize in order to do that, the mausoleum would have had to open the crypt for him. And then my mother said a word that I don't think I've heard in 2011. I'm not sure I would have heard this word in 1911. Yeah, but what if they're in cahoots? Cahoots? She says, we've got to exhume your father and find out exactly what's in that crypt. And I've been through things like this before, so I know there's only one thing I can do. I've got to come up with an I Love Lucy type scheme, and I'm going to have a lot of splaining to do. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard of a SWAT device. S-W-A-T stands for Sonar Weight Assessment Technology. It's a device that scuba divers use in case there's a large object coming at them. Show of applause. Everyone out there has heard of a SWAT device, yes? Yeah, thank you. You are all liars. I made it up. It doesn't exist. But I told my mom we had a friend who's going to put it right up to the crypt, and we're going to find out exactly what weight is in there. We're going to get this straightened out. So I try to make it realistic. I wait a couple of days. I do a little basic mathematics on what's supposed to be in the crypt. Dad, 100 pounds. Casket, 3 iron. Bottle of scotch. I added it all up. I got 251 pounds, so I called my mother and I said, Mom, great news! There's 251 pounds in that crypt. And she says, 251 pounds? Your father didn't weigh 251 pounds? Who's in there? I said, Mom, you're forgetting all about the casket. She says, there is no casket in there. They took that back. I said, Mom, apparently they didn't. And she stopped. And she said, let me think about that. That does not mean that there is closure. All that means is that I've got to be ready with another friend who happens to be an X-ray technician and a real live friend who's an expert in Photoshop. Thank you all very much. Have a great night.